Hello and welcome to another episode of History of Renaissance. On our first episode, we talked about Giotto and his profound influence in the beginning of the Italian Renaissance. On today's episode, we will examine the life and work of Lorenzo Ghiberti, the most important sculptor of Florence and one of the most prolific figures of the 15th century. Before we begin, like this video and subscribe to our channel to support our work and watch more episodes about the history of art and the history of cinema. Let's begin. Ghiberti was born in 1378 in Pelago, a city near Florence. The exact day and month are not known. What we know is that he was the son of a goldsmith named Bartoluccio from Florence. There are speculations as to who was Lorenzo's real father, since Bartoluccio was his mother's second husband, which she married by law, after the death of her first husband, Cione, in 1406. Lorenzo himself claimed both men as his father at separate times. Later on in his life, he considered Bartoluccio as his father since the latter trained him as a goldsmith. He also received training as a painter. In 1392, he was admitted to the Silk and Gold Guild as an apprentice, and by 1398, he passed his examination to become a guild master goldsmith. Since then, Ghiberti started to build his reputation as a master goldsmith, particularly for his skills in bronze sculpture, a medium very expensive and hard to work with at the time. He mostly became famous due to his unusual technique, which no one or very few were using before him. Ghiberti did his own casting, using the direct lost wax procedure. That is, creating a wax model with a clay basis, which was then covered in clay and baked so that it could melt out the wax and the space left could then be filled with melted bronze. He also demonstrated his skills when working with metal, when he was using curves and strikes with pumice stone to finish a piece and remove any imperfections. In 1400, the plague, known as Black Death or bubonic plague, hit Florence. By that time, Florence was considered the crown jewel of Italy and the most advanced medieval city. It was also home to some of the wealthiest families and the birthplace of Renaissance. Ironically, Florence was one of the worst victims of the disease due to its population. It was during that time that Lorenzo Ghiberti left for Rimini in order to look for a job, but mostly to escape the disease. In 1401, Ghiberti returned to Florence to participate in a competition for the commission of 2 bronze doors for the baptistery of the Cathedral of Florence. He and 6 other artists were given the task to represent the biblical scene of Abraham's sacrifice of Isaac in a bronze relief of quarter-foil shape. 2 of the other artists were Filippo Brunelleschi and Jacopo della Quercia. Ghiberti's trial piece, however, won the commission. His panel and Brunelleschi's survive to this day. After the judges recognized Ghiberti's amazing talent and signed a contract with him, he took over the commission and started working on the project in 1407. The work lasted until 1424, and Ghiberti didn't only make the doors, but devoted himself to the designs for the stained glass windows in the cathedral. He also collaborated with Brunelleschi to the creation of the dome, a claim which is debated by historians, and acted as an architectural consultant. Around 1412, the commissioners, Arte dei Mercanti di Calimana, a powerful guild of bankers, gave him another commission for the creation of a large statue of their patron saint, John the Baptist. This was a very demanding task, as the statue was the first large bronze statue in Florence, and when Ghiberti finished it in 1416, he became famous and got more money for more bronze statues from other patrons. The most popular were the St. Matthew in 1419 for the Bankers Guild and the St. Stephen for the Wool Guild in 1425. By 1424, Ghiberti also had finished the doors for the baptistery of Florence. His work became a symbol of Florence and its economic power and early Renaissance. During these years, he also found a wife. She was called Marsilia and she was 16 when she married Ghiberti. Marsilia was the daughter of a wool carder named Bartolomeo di Lucca. With her, Lorenzo had 2 sons, Tommaso and Vittorio. When they grew up, they both joined their father in his business as it continued to grow. His success as a businessman brought to the family a lot of property and turned Ghiberti into a rich man among the other artists of his time. Throughout his life, Lorenzo Ghiberti was interested in learning new techniques and in other artists' work. His workshop was a place where many artists of the period would gather and collaborate or check each other's work. Whether it was out of competition or curiosity or collaboration, it is true that all the artists that worked there influenced each other. Evidence has shown that many of the trainees who visited Ghiberti's workshop would later become very famous artists themselves. Some of them are Donatello, Paolo Uccello, Michelozzo, and Benozzo Gozzoli. In addition to being an excellent and influential artist, Ghiberti was also a historian and a collector of artifacts. In his autobiography, History, he wrote not only his theories on art, but also his humanist ideas, showcasing that he had not only an incredible talent, but also a brilliant mind. In one of his commentaries, he writes, "Few important things were done in our city which were not devised or designed by my hand." According to other sources, he shared his knowledge with other artists and students freely and with great joy. In his 3 books, I Commentari, he wrote about art in ancient times, his admiration about Latin authors, and the importance of practice in relation to excellence in art. Many of the important events and personalities are discussed in Ghiberti's books, so history also owes him that. Lorenzo Ghiberti died on December 1st, 1455, at the age of 77 in Florence, leaving behind a great volume of art and theoretical knowledge. He definitely elevated the Italian Renaissance and made great innovations used by later artists. If you liked our video, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.